Hi, Steve Gillmor. This is the Gillmor Gang. Barbara Scoble just said that rock and roll is good for the soul. I'm not sure that that's true, actually.
Of course it is.
Well, what's the soul?
It's Cleveland.
It wasn't good for soul music. It wiped out soul music. Anyway. And this is the kind of information that you're going to get in the next few minutes. And luckily, it's not available anywhere else. Okay, Robert Scoble, welcome.
Hey, what's up, man? I was at some concert last night with a bunch of geeks. So.
Really? What was the concert?
Delta Ray. It was really awesome.
And they are what kind of music?
It's three siblings, brothers, two brothers and a sister, and a couple friends. It's a vocal, instrumental vocal group. It's good. Okay. It's my favorite new band. It's not as good as the Beatles yet, but
yeah, well,
you gotta, it's 2013. You gotta take what you can get.
Well, the asteroid has passed them and us.
The meteor and the asteroid.
Well, it turns out that there's no difference. CNN says that an asteroid becomes a meteor when it enters the atmosphere. So evidently, this never became a meteor.
It started out as a meteor.
That's about right, yes.
That's
no,
right.
But there was a meteor yesterday and there was an asteroid today.
Yeah.
Which the meteor kind of stole the thunder by actually exploding.
I think that was Lucasfilm's latest effort in Russia. I don't think that was real.
Mm-hmm.
They had some good footage, actually. It looked real.
Does every car in Russia have a camera in front of it?
Yes.
I mean, how many do they have? God, my head's so big in here.
30%. Welcome, John Taschek, and your big head. The chuckle of one of the Brits is from Kevin Marks. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi there. Yeah, so the Russian cars seem to have these little cameras that both show where they were going in order that they can record what happens in case of accidents, because traffic is so bad there that they have to have evidence to play back in court.
No, I read a whole article on this. The legal system in Russia is different than here, and they don't take verbal evidence from witnesses. They'll only take digital evidence. So everybody's putting in these cameras on their cars, and the mafia there has been taking out a lot of people, hitting them in accidents and then suing them and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a reason that the Russians all have these cameras on their dashboards. I guess this is good news for GoPro. Put more cameras everywhere.
And the other silent Brit is Keith Teare. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you. I was actually just looking at the Just Me public stream from Russia, and we got pictures of the meteors, and it tells you all about these guys called registrators, who that's what they call these things on the cars. They call registrators. It's the most popular thing in Russia. Almost every video was taken by one.
So does Just.me aggregate all the videos everywhere?
No, it's just people who happen to be there that choose to publish it to a public stream, not unlike, say, Twitter. But it's mobile, but it's kind of like Twitter with videos and pictures.
So we heard John Taschek today, I think it was today, we've been hearing it for a while now, that mobile is just basically taking over everything.
Yes, we have heard that on the Gillmor Gang for about 2 years now.
Yeah, but I mean, there's an increasing drumbeat of...
and I think not only is mobile taking over everything as far as we define mobile, but mobile, the definition of mobile is changing, so that those cars, those registrators, are those are mobile, definitely mobile devices. Maybe ultimately a mobile device, since they're on wheels. It's definitely a really interesting time for new ecosystems to be developed around this kind of technology and use cases.
So the big news this week was this new app from SRI, the same people who brought us the mouse and HDTV and Siri.
And the CIA.
And the CIA, yeah. And it's called Tempo, and it is a calendar replacement. Some people really love this thing. I do. Because it brings out things like like addresses out of your email. It brings attachments out of your email. It brings emails, about a calendar item out, and I really love it. Other people like Gartenberg are like, "What's all the hype about?" And I'm like, "Dude, this saves me a lot of time."
So it's rolling up calendar from where? Which calendar?
Uses the Apple or Google Calendar, and it goes into your email, either in Apple's email on the iPhone. This is an iPhone app, so not yet on Android, or it goes into Gmail. In my case, it's going into Gmail, and then it also asks for your Facebook and I think your LinkedIn. For interesting other things. It's competing with an app called Q, by the way, which is very similar. And Google Now is doing somewhat similar things of bringing contextual information out of your email and trying to surface it in one place so that you know that you have to leave for a meeting or all sorts of different things.
What's
Google
it called,
Now
Robert?
is pretty amazing. Now it takes your web searches. If you're searching on a Google Maps, and it kind of puts into your now, like how long it would take you to get to that place. It's putting a lot of context around it. I just don't think anyone really understands what it's doing, and I don't think Google understands either. I certainly don't. It just pops up once in a while and say, "Hey, oh yeah, I remember searching on that on another computer, and now it's on my phone." And I really wasn't intending to go there. I was just typing to figure out where it was, but it shows up in Google Now. It's pretty amazing what they're doing there.
You were saying something, Keith?
I was asking Robert what the app's called.
It's called Tempo. Tempo. It's hard to get onto right now. I have friends who are complaining that it's taken 2 days to even get access to it. So they are having trouble scaling this thing, and which shows some of the downsides of contextual apps. They have to do so much processing per account to look into your email. It took me about half an hour on my account to process it properly to get it to work. So they're having some trouble scaling. They're not on Rackspace. They're on Amazon, I believe, so can't help them.
Slip that one in.
Yep. Can't help them. But yeah, it's an interesting new genre of product. I call it age of context product, where it's joining together databases of things to build something new. And the other downside is you have to give it access to your email and your calendar and your Facebook. And a lot of people are like, I'm going to give my a third-party app that I don't even know much about access to all this stuff. Me, I don't care, but I saw that complaint a few times.
What do you think the downside is of it? If they have access, you mean that they could publish that data, or?
I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, anybody who breaks the privacy contract with people is really going to screw themselves and become instantly unused.
Didn't happen with Facebook.
Well, Facebook, broke the privacy contract other places by changing the privacy contract, first of all.
Maybe because they always said they would never have a privacy contract, that they couldn't break anything.
Yeah, it's different. Facebook and this thing are different, but the fear is that this thing is going to see a pattern and report that pattern to somebody. And I don't know who it would be, but the government already has access to a lot of this data. If they want to get into your email, all they have to do is get a court order to get access to your email or your cell phone records or your calendar data. Or
is it really that easy?
Yeah, it is that easy. Twitter gets thousands of requests.
I mean, Verizon blocked that when they were trying to get access to the records, right? I mean, Kevin probably knows more about this.
When the government,
I only remember seeing stories, but a lot of people rebelled against this. A lot of companies rebelled against it.
When you have a court order, you have to give it access. So
now Verizon fought it.
No.
They fought it. I don't know what happened after that. They definitely made a big
good luck
issue
with that.
of it.
Good luck with that.
Kevin,
What? What was sorry? What was the
afraid of
question?
being tapped.
Well, it's the
I lost the
government
question.
trying to get a court order with their new court order app. Go ahead, Kevin.
I've lost the thread. Sorry.
Court order.
Court orders for what? For Verizon? So the government doesn't need a court order. This is the problem. The government has these things called national security letters that says that they can take data from you and you don't have to. And in fact, you're required not to tell people that they've done it. So that's the structural problem.
Yeah. Somebody said if you have your own Exchange server that you can't get in. That's true. But if somebody comes to your front door with a court order, you have to comply. And if you don't, they will take your Exchange server.
Yep.
You know,
What
it's
are they
pretty
gonna do,
clear
take
with
Verizon?
the government when they want
Come
when they
on.
have a court order and they want to tap your phone or tap your email, they will get their way. There's not too much around that, you know.
Well, that's different. That's Echelon that's monitoring, the conversations without a
Well,
court
there's
order.
now that's
Um,
there's lots of ways to listen in without getting access, and God knows all the ways. I mean, I don't know if you saw this new drone sensor that I put up on my YouTube page. It has 368 different cell phone sensors. It's up 17,000 feet above you. It can watch I think a 15 square mile area with high def video of resolution down less than 6 inches. So if this is what they're admitting to, they're gonna get your data. They're gonna figure out what you're doing. They're gonna know you're growing dope.
But
in
why
the
would they
backyard.
care? I mean, this is like visitors from another planet. Why would
Mostly-
they come here anyway?
Mostly they care about Afghanistan or wherever they're going to have wherever they're going to want to watch a security theater, a war theater. I'm sure one of these is watching North Korea. One of them's watching Iran, and one of them's watching or certain places in Iran because it's only it's 17 square miles, so you have to put a different drone up, to watch more than 17 square miles. Anyways, and we all know that they're listening in on lots of things with or without court order.
Safety through obscurity. That's my motto.
I just am public about everything. That way, I'm never shocked by what leaks out. I mean, even I would make my email public if I could sort of keep people from sending email or something. Email to me is not that there's any private data in there, although once in a while there is. It's more that I need to have the identity of I am sending it, not somebody else in the world is sending it.
Those are not real crows, by the way.
There's been quite a bit of email stuff
synthetic
this
crows.
week. Mailbox came out for the Mac, for iOS, and also had a backlog. It looked as if they had about 500,000 requests, and we're drip feeding them. And it's all about organizing your email. It's kind of interesting that people are trying to fix email rather than trying to come up with other things. And
No.
I just wonder if email is actually fixable, because the effort you got to put in to fix it is so enormous that it's still a time sink, even with the tools that fix it.
It is a time sink, but email is not going away anytime soon. Email, nothing has the potential of replacing email yet. Facebook, no. Twitter, no. LinkedIn, no. And I don't know of any other system that lets me do what email does, which is send something as me, copy other people on it, which I can't do on Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus, and have a good notification system of a new email showed up. I mean, on my iPad, I get,
Yep.
I see lots of Gmail notifications, right? And it all works. And there's a system where I can send email to other. I don't have to have Gmail on all my friends' accounts. Some can be on Exchange, some can be on their own POP server, some can be on, something they wrote themselves, and it all works. It's not going to be easy to replace email, and even if you did, Why would you move off of email? The thing that's broken for me about email was all the commercial spam, bacon. So there's spam, which is sheer out commercial messages I don't want to see. Then there's bacon, which is all these artificial, automatically created messages like Facebook. Every time you message me, it'll create a piece of bacon and push it into my email.
I don't understand that reference. Why would something as gloriously good as bacon be attributed to something as gloriously bad as spam?
Well, I think spam, spam is
It's supposed to be slightly better than spam, you see. Spam is something you don't
Slightly?
really read. Whereas bacon it's a message from a social network that you might want to read.
Yeah, but Steve's point is bacon is awesome. So that would be what
is
you
my
call the
point.
best email.
Yeah,
I'll send
People
you an
are
email
saying that
about
email
this.
works because of open standards. That's true. There's a federation piece of this that email has that the other systems don't have, and that is absolutely a good thing. But email, today somebody wrote me a whole long thing on Facebook and wanted an answer. I said, screw you. I'm not answering you on Facebook because I need to get other people involved in this. So send me on email. There is no way to copy somebody or BCC somebody or put a signature on a Facebook message or put an out of office message on Facebook. I can do all that on email.
And DMs, what do you think about Twitter DMs?
They suck.
They totally rock.
Let me show you how bad they suck. Hold on a second here.
They suck rocks.
Just while you're looking that up, let me just tell you, I had a meeting this week with
really.
John Lilly
Shake your head.
from Greylock, talking about the convergence of kind of web-based social networking with mobile messaging. And, Facebook creating a messenger app and WhatsApp and other apps becoming more social, and talking about where that might end up.
Here's an example. So this is my Twitter DMs from the last 15 hours. The top 5 messages, or 6 or 7 maybe even, are totally spam messages. They're not even spam. They're automatically created messages when somebody clicks on something that they're not supposed to.
So in other words, you've
You follow
followed
people,
all those
yeah.
people?
I follow all these people. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But this
So
is
where's
totally
the bug?
useless. It's
Where's the
totally
bug?
Useless. That's the bug right there.
No, the bug is you're following all these people.
No, fuck you. This is totally useless for a whole lot of reasons. And it has no CC, no BCC, no out of office message. I can't write long messages.
Messages are CC and BCC.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Sorry. This is a totally unusable messaging system. This is not going to be a threat to email in any way. Now, it is useful for quick and dirty messages to people.
There doesn't need to be a threat to email. Email sucks. Everybody hates it.
You know what? Email sucks until you do 4 things.
Okay, here we go with the filters. Okay, great.
Filters are what, and let me show you what these filters do. So first of all, you get a real spam filter on Gmail.
Where's Scoble? Oh, he's off making new filters.
This is in the
He
last 24
disappears
hours.
once a month for a week in order to write new filters.
I deleted all my manually created filters. I have no manually created filters anymore. So my spam filter in the last 24 hours caught 161 messages. By the way, that does not happen on Twitter. Facebook doesn't have spam for another reason, because you can only receive messages that were from your friends. But now I have a thing called SaneBox, which pulls...
I use that. It's great.
It's awesome. It pulls all this crap, like my mileage.
What is that,
plus.
John?
SaneBox.
Sane is organizes your email, puts automatic filters into your email that you want to see, your email that you can archive for later, your to-dos, your black holes. So it can automatically unsubscribe your emails that you don't want it to have just by taking a something that you want into and dragging it into your Sane black hole folder. And your Sane archive is automatically archives email older than 6 months. So your stream of email is current and accurate, and you can train it over time also very easily by just dragging your emails into different folders.
See, Steve, this is bacon. This Quora message here, that's bacon. This message got automatically created and shoved into my inbox because I subscribe to Quora. This Mileage Plus email is commercial and is very low value, right? So low value, I don't even turn on the images so I can see it. And then I have things like the Sika wealth management newsletter from a friend, and other low quality emails. SaneBox filters those out. I also use Other Inbox to also filter them out because both filters have do different things. And
how to get on Scoble's low quality list?
It's
we'll be right
easy.
back.
It's pretty easy. Here's Jason.
You see, Twitter is sending a high, medium, and low quality signal in their API now, so you can be filtered out by Twitter.
Yep.
Didn't actually explain how they derive it, but it's there.
All right, so that's two things. So SaneBox and Other Inbox, and then I use Gmail's Labs. If you go to Gmail settings and go to Labs, there's a thing called Smart Labels. Turn that on. That's another automatic filter that filters even more stuff out. So that's 3 automatic filters I use on my inbox. And once you do those 3, it gets pretty damn clean. You have very little low-value crap anymore in your inbox. They're all in folders somewhere that you can look at. Then I use an app or a service called Unroll Me. And Unroll Me does not just filtering. So it takes all these things like the San Francisco Giants, which is a newsletter, or my Strategic News Service, which is a newsletter, or Zillow, which is a newsletter, and puts it all in one folder. So it again filters out all the crap that has low value, very little real value, puts it in a folder, and then it eventually unsubscribes all those things. And it has a whole web page where you can, in fact, let me pull the web page up so you can see it, because it's pretty cool. And so it unsubscribes. Now people say the Gmail has its own unsubscribe. I find the Unroll Me is better for my needs, but try it out and see if it works for you. So here's the Unroll Me site where it lists all my newsletters, and it gives me choices of whether to save that newsletter. Like Angel List, I'm going to mark that right now as favorite, and I can say don't unsubscribe. Give it direct to the inbox, and that lets me really clean up those 4 things. When you run them, your email is back in control. And then I run this one last thing called Maelstrom. Maelstrom. Anybody here use Maelstrom?
Yep.
Yeah, I love this thing. Let me see if I can pull it up. I think it's maelstrom.co. Yeah, maelstrom.co. And Maelstrom lets you view messages by your sender and subject, by list, by time, by whether they're social, shopping, da-da-da. This lets you clean out your inbox really, really fast, because like here I can say, oh, Morgan O'Leary sent me something low quality, or I already answered Morgan, so I can archive it or I can delete it. And in an hour, I deleted 700 emails. I archived them. And this made my inbox get to the place where I could see the stuff I really needed to answer. And then I was very, very productive. I love this tool. So those
to me,
4 or
this is
5
a little bit,
together.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
To me, this is a little bit like saying, you come home and you say, holy crap, my basement's collapsed. I've got dry rot in my loft. The windows are all smashed and the taps are dripping.
Yeah.
And there's all these amazing
How did you
tools
know
for
this?
fixing it. And I'm going to spend the next 10 years fixing my windows, getting rid of the dry rot. And the truth is, you need to sell the house.
Yeah, well, there's no... sometimes you don't have an option to sell the house. My house is 200,000 underwater, so if I want to live here, I have to fix the dry rot. Otherwise, the thing will collapse around me eventually, right? And that's what was happening to email. Email was collapsing around me, and I needed to fix it because there was no other alternative. I wish Twitter DM was an alternative. I wish Facebook messages were an alternative. I wish LinkedIn messages were an alternative, but they're not. In fact, they are far less productive per message than email is. So I'd rather...
I'm going to predict that 3 months from now, not to be too self-promotional, but you're going to be using the stuff on that logo behind me.
Just me. I'm playing with it.
It's not there yet. Don't comment yet.
All right. Well,
Wait.
I find it.
Wait till next week.
I'll wait because we'll talk about it next week. But
Yeah.
So far, it hasn't come up to.
No. Wait. Don't go there.
Okay. All right.
Well, you went there, you know.
Yeah.
You can't go there and then say,
I
don't
know.
go
I
there.
forgot he had it.
Yeah.
You're just hoping for a bit of beta glow there. Okay.
What's
It's not.
beta?
It's not yet to the place where I would consider replacing my email. And also,
Totally agree.
By the
But it
way,
will be.
is it just me? Is only going to be a mobile app, right?
No, it's web as well.
Oh, a web as well. Okay.
Any of your
What is
users
this
can go
thing
to
called
beta
web
just,
that you're
just
mentioning?
.me, and if you post something now, Robert, publicly, they'll be able to see it there. Anyone who's listening.
You know, Steve, there's still this thing called a desktop computer. And
I'm not familiar with that.
You know, it's called a web browser.
I have to get it. My computer at work is being replaced, and I'm going smaller.
iPad Mini.
No,
Is that all-
I've already,
is that all?
the iPad Mini already handles 90% of my computing.
A lot.
Yeah. So, but
If it wasn't for video editing and also the ability to have glass, the glass does matter. Being able to stretch out and put, Twitter and Facebook and, Quora up on my screens all at one time is just a thing of beauty. And on gaming, I was at Scott Jordan's house in Sun Valley, Idaho this week, and he has 3 65-inch monitors with a separate Xbox on each one. And we were playing racing games on that. Holy shit, was that cool.
MG Siegler had an interesting article yesterday, I think it was, about how the opportunity for Apple to basically dominate the gaming space and just basically blow away Xbox, etc. Did anybody read that? Because it was on TechCrunch. It was quite good.
I did.
So what do you think about that?
I think gaming is completely being disrupted by, tablets and by, the chipsets that are coming along. NVIDIA was really hot at CES this year. They have a $300 tablet with a really advanced chipset for gaming. Now it's like, why would I buy a $300 tablet instead of an Xbox? Because your games are $1 a piece. Where on the Xbox, your games are $60 a piece. So this is a disruptive world, and most kids now are playing games on tablets, whether it's an iPad or an Android or on their phone, because they have those things with them all the time. And kids are what drives the gaming industry. It's not old farts like me. They're happy when we buy games, but it's the high school kids that really are the drivers of the game industry and the music industry and the movie industries, and they're going tablets.
Did you guys see MG Siegler's post just now on TechCrunch saying that Apple later this year is going to totally dominate the gaming category because
Welcome to
Apple
the show.
TV is going to allow you to do gaming with
Keith.
controllers.
Keith, I just said that about 40 seconds
Sorry,
ago.
I was distracted.
I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did see that. I thought it was an excellent article and a really good point, and I think that its implications for the intersection of television and gaming are enormous. John Taschek, what do you think?
I'm not a gamer, but I can see what people do. I was just at my wife's cousin's house, and they had a PlayStation and the Nintendo thing, the Wii, and an Xbox, and they clearly were dusty. They were just sitting in there, and everyone was playing these games on their iPad, or mostly on their iPhone, and they were. I totally agree. And these weird little hybrid things that come out, which is like your tablet. I think the Wii U has this. Again, I'm not a gamer, but so I'll sound kind of stupid here. But it looks like a tablet that's a controller for a game on a TV. I don't think that's the right approach. I think probably Apple can get involved in this. I think Google probably could too. That's why they named their app exchange the Play Store, because it's focused on entertainment, and they'll have some kind of technology where it actually is a real controller for something on a larger screen, or it could be a smaller screen. It could be anywhere. And Apple has an advantage with AirPlay. It's totally going to be the future. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to invent new kinds. New kinds of games will be developed based around that form factor itself.
A couple of AirPlay developments this week. I just noticed this because I updated about 30 apps and glanced through the notes, and 60 Minutes now supports AirPlay, so that you can basically just completely route around CBS and just go directly to the thing, push it up to your Apple TV. Also, what was the other big AirPlay announcement?
HBO.
Right, HBO Go.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. And there were also comments by Jeff Bukes about House of Cards.
I love House of Cards.
Which he basically said it's pretty good.
It's way
which for
better
HBO
than pretty
is
good.
Well, it's
way
not
better
as
than
good
pretty
as
good.
it's not good as a cocaine era Aaron Sorkin show.
Okay, it's not as good as Breaking Bad, and it's not as good as Homeland, but it's close, and it's a lot better than 99% of TV. And the fact that a little web company, a startup, in Silicon Valley funded this, is amazing. And if that's going to continue, and if they can do more of those quality shows, they're going to really start to eat into to traditional old school TV and move even more of our behavior away from ABC, NBC, CBS, and their
Do you
crappy
think they can
shows.
scale it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're
the
competing
writers,
against.
I guess they can get around the writers'
fact that
strike
a
type
lot of
things
my
at Triple
friends-
TV and turn us into robots watching reality TV. But I mean, because they're a different organization, but still, it's just really hard to scale programming. It took
Because-
Fox, for example,
Yeah,
like
but
20
what's
years.
changed? What's
I
changed in
think.
the last 5
and it was,
years?
And it rode the Simpsons waves to do that.
Something major has changed in the last 5 years.
But what is that thing?
What
We're
particularly?
about to
This thing.
Twitter.
Yes. That is a huge change in the last 5 years, because now I can see a lot of people and their behaviors and what they like. That's why I know. That's why I watched House of Cards. I wasn't about to go and start up Netflix and watch a stupid ass show that they put up, but everybody on Twitter was going, "Holy shit, is this a great show?" And
Yeah.
that got
Well,
me to
they
watch
had a
the
great
first time.
distribution model because it splashed on the screen
This-
of every time you wanted to Netflix.
I never go to Netflix. I don't watch Netflix, to tell you the truth. I pay the $9 a month.
The normal people did, and they
No,
alerted you.
Enough people in my graph did, and they talked about it and said, "Oh my God, this is a great show." And I watched. That's why I watched so many people. I'm watching the signaling that goes on amongst early adopters, and they'll tell you whether a show's good. How
Yeah,
many
I
people
agree with you.
here
I
think
just the question was one of scale. I mean, can they actually scale?
this scales to hundreds of millions of people.
I think
Yes.
the
Not
Comcast.
the
This is
distribution
changing.
scale. I'm talking about the
Twitter
scale
is-
of making
Twitter-
good TV. Or good, whatever it's going
how
to be
much
called.
did they invest in that, and how many people have gone to Netflix and watched that show in the last?
Look, the
couple-
number that's important about this is comparing the number of subscribers to Netflix to the number of subscribers to Showtime. They're about equal. Netflix has passed Showtime in terms of numbers of 27, 28 million. That creates the ability for them to be able to do what Showtime's done, which is to come in with slightly less quality and certainly lower caliber stars. But
Dude,
enough
this is a
of
lot better than most Showtime shows. I watch a lot of TV. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Homeland. I think House of Cards is better than Homeland. But
I would. You know what I would compare it with? I would compare it with the failed attempt by YouTube to create internet channels, because their content totally sucks. You compare Netflix and YouTube, and Netflix kicks ass. I think Showtime and HBO are in the same camp as Netflix.
Yeah, but you
YouTube's
have
in
to-
I
this
do
kind
think
of-
YouTube blew their opportunity there, but they didn't really aim for it I mean, they waited too long. I don't know if it will be a channel to compete with Netflix or not.
Well,
Robert?
What's going to
Robert?
compete with Netflix?
YouTube.
No, is
YouTube-
it? Is it? Question mark.
YouTube has the potential. The problem is YouTube's DNA was all around short 2-minute videos built for 14-year-old boys. And they are struggling with losing that DNA and changing to where they're going to fund serious content like this. Netflix, on the other hand, has a DNA of understanding movies. Now, whether they have
Actually,
good
more
movies or not.
TV than movies, but
Well,
that's all right.
but Netflix started with me.
Movies, yeah.
The reason I bought
Entertainment.
Netflix, 8 years ago, whenever it was movies, because I could get movies sent to my house on DVDs and put them in my DVD player and watch them. And then
But it's
return
not
the
movies; it's binge viewing, which is episodic series.
That's different now.
All
That-
available. That's what's turned this. It's what the innovation
No,
with House
I'd
of
say
Cards is releasing the product so that the user's in control, which is
Right.
exactly why it went viral. It's
Nah.
not because the quality
No,
was
if-
important, but
if they had put one show up at a time, they would have still gotten a lot of hype. 'Cause
not like
this-
they did. Not
Not as much. The point is they're playing to
Yeah.
their strength, because their strength is
I
you
do-
can
I
do this
will
binge viewing.
I will fire a show if it is moderately good, and what they do is they hold my attention with cliffhangers week to week. Eventually, I'll stack them up on the DVR, at which point it becomes a crisis when I travel, or I will fire it. I'll just delete all of them. I mean, we've deleted Glee this season simply because I know that next year it'll be available on Netflix, and I don't have to wait around for these stupid storylines.
Right, so there's going to be a little chicken and egg thing going on with a content trough happening, because in order for a show to last the year that's done by advertised-based television, it has to get enough people to follow it, but now people are shifting over to binge viewing. I really think that's true. I can't watch TV anymore unless it's live sports or something like that, unless I know that the whole thing is already available. So what I think there's going to be two things that happen. One is they'll release the whole thing in a package, and the second thing is that the viewer habits will definitely shift over, so that the actual seasons will be shorter and more complete, more like a book rather than a series that just burns itself out over time.
I want to introduce one other meme here, which is a House of Cards. They say it's about Washington, which the old line is that Washington is Hollywood for ugly people. But the reality is it's about Silicon Valley. Thoughts? Analysis?
Haven't watched it. Haven't watched the new one.
Just I just wanted to get the grin from Taschek. Thank you. Robert Scoble, take my my meme there and run with it. It's not about Washington.
It's not about Washington.
It's about Silicon Valley.
Well, that Silicon Valley technology does get you further in this world than a lot of other things. But if you don't have the quality show, we're not going to.
I'm not talking about the delivery mechanism. I'm talking about the
No, you
the
named
snakes in
some.
the grass and the technology business.
Look at the innovation in TV. Whether it was the TiVo, which first showed us the ability to time shift content that came out of Silicon Valley, to Netflix ability to distribute media for very low cost that came out of Silicon Valley, to this kind of if you watch one show, here's some other shows that you could watch that came out of Silicon Valley, or maybe Amazon, up in Seattle. That's technology. There's when I look at how my media life has changed, it's due to Silicon Valley, but it's in combination with the good content. And this is the YouTube problem. YouTube doesn't have the DNA of building of understanding this good long form content. It just didn't grow up with that.
Do you think that it's not just that, but just that Google was kind of afraid of competing with some of the companies that
I think it's the DNA of the company.
services,
It's really hard to change DNA of companies once it starts getting rolling. I mean, think about Salesforce. Could you change Salesforce into a completely different company? Within a year? It's really, really difficult.
Not within
to
a
do
year,
that.
but maybe 3 years.
It's really, really difficult, even when you have
the
somebody
thing
like
is, you've got to want
Benioff.
to.
Yeah, and everybody in the
You've got to
company
want
has
to, and I don't think YouTube really wants to. It's YouTube's awesome for what it's awesome at, which is the not just short form, but how do I fix this tap in my bathroom, or some cool dance that this Harlem Shake thing that everyone's doing. It's awesome for what it's awesome for. Google's
they built
throwing
great
some money at
scale.
longer form and channelization, but it really hasn't become the heart and soul, so they don't really mean it. If they meant it, they might be able to do it.
Yeah, it's really tough to take a technology company. I mean, walk
have a
around that
better-
big building where YouTube was built, where YouTube's run out of, there's a lot of engineers building scale. There's a lot of engineers building ads. There's a lot of engineers building news feeds and channels. There's not a lot of...
What I'm troubled with is the Google itself is kind of reinventing itself, and they have this Play Store, which eventually will be games, and it has games obviously for Android and the whole ecosystem there. But there's a whole entertainment wing for it. Why aren't they coupling that with YouTube?
Who has an entertainment wing at Google?
Google Play is an entertainment. It's entertainment.
No, that's a magazine. It's a curated app store. That's not. I've never seen something come out of Google that looks like a movie.
Magazines. I mean, they can couple that with YouTube.
They sell you movies. That's what he means.
They're selling, but they're not making. Selling is different than
Unless you
making.
count the internship.
The only thing that Google has an opportunity to do is to disrupt live events on YouTube.
That's cool.
And that's where I was thinking that that's the real disconnect, because they don't want to compete or even get in trouble with the advertised-based television programming stations. Right,
I'd
the
say the big
NFL owns
change-
the rights
sorry.
to the NFL, right? But you could certainly, somebody could post something on that. There's a lot of soccer games, football matches, to Kevin and Keith, that are on YouTube, and they're immediately taken down 12 minutes later. They could do that, but they don't.
But see, there's the big opportunity for me. If you are the scale of an Apple or a Google, it is not crazily expensive to go and buy the rights to NFL, English Premier League, UEFA Champions League, basketball, and baseball.
NFL, you got to be kidding.
And it's a lot of money. It's billions of dollars. But those guys could do it.
No,
that's when
they
the
couldn't.
shift
Not
happens,
NFL.
when live sports and live news moves off of cable and satellite onto internet. Everybody shifts with it.
NFL, no way. Just no way. That controls the ratings in the broadcast television business. That's it.
But it's all about
there's
money.
Nothing else. Yeah. And so you can't start at the top of the pile. I mean, Jobs didn't start, with the Beatles in the record business. He started with everybody else.
I don't say you should start there. I just say game over when you get there.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be game over. I think it'll be some sort of merger of, one or several of the studios. I mean, we're already Apple and ABC are together. Comcast is doing some really interesting things, which tends to make me think that what John Taschek's talking about the difficulty of scaling, the only way that Comcast can scale is because when the cost of content goes up, they make more money because they own NBC. So they're making money in some areas as they become a larger sort of acquirer of the various media channels to buffer them against the coming storm around Netflix, which is why I think that we start to hear Time Warner and Jeff Buick's starting to say nice things about Netflix. They're trying to get them into a sort of Showtime number 2 kind of perspective.
Yeah, when Netflix went online, they had that agreement with Stars, right? And then it went away for several months during a contract dispute. It's back on there, but it's in limited distribution. It just shows how hard this is.
But they,
how much
what they
those organizations like Stars and Showtime, HBO don't want to relinquish any control they have, and they want to do it themselves.
But the studios are now, like CBS and NBC, not a lot CBS, but NBC and ABC are making money off of Netflix. There's enough money flowing through the Netflix chain to validate them as a supplier of cash to these big, content
Right. And one of the
networks.
things Netflix can do is burn up their cash in order to secure those rights, which most companies won't do. I mean, that's part of their business model is to pay a lot to get to do whatever they can, but do it right as a public company.
That wasn't their original business model. The original business model was using first sale doctrine with DVDs, but they started having to buy rights for the digital stuff. And the thing is, they've got 3 or 4 competitors there with Google and Amazon and Apple, and everyone else every now and then tries to set up another digital streaming thing. So Hollywood's okay there because they're getting money from all those different places.
DVDs are dead. I mean, that's streaming is just completely overwhelmed it. I mean, that's what's interesting about House of Cards is why buy the DVD set? It's already there.
Yeah. Do you follow what Mark Cuban says in this area? Mark Cuban, he's obviously self-interested because of HDNet, but he is a huge skeptic on the possibility of the internet scaling to enough live streams of HD to be able to replace broadcast anyway.
Yeah, he keeps saying that, but he's right up until it's like people saying this is a bubble. It's a bubble when it collapses. Until then, it's the economy. So I mean, he's probably right, but every time we run out of bandwidth on the internet, it seems to continue to expand. So I think he's wrong.
Yeah, that's my gut too.
Well, I think he's slightly got a point, but in that the internet is not good at doing the Super Bowl, but doesn't matter because there's only one of those a year. We don't need to do that very often. But the internet is actually really good at doing breaking news, as we saw last night with the Meteor stuff, where we had. I don't know if you were up when that was happening, but it was like 1:30 or something. But I was up and I was seeing all these videos go by on Twitter and on YouTube, and all those things were up. And then there was nothing on the TV channels for a while, and then what they started showing was YouTube things. So that was we have to have live broadcast for news. That's definitely over. We want to show the same thing to several million people at once. Yeah, the television satellite infrastructure is better at that at the moment, but that's the only reason that people the reason that people want to watch those live is that they're watching with other people and heckling back and forth on Twitter and Facebook and things like that.
So this was a conversation that all of you, and I say collectively, absolutely refused to have for months. So, now that we're in the era of House of Cards, what is the next thing that we're going to talk about that you guys refuse to talk about right now?
Game of Thrones.
Have we refused to? We've
I
had this
refuse to
conversation.
talk about Game of Thrones. Not what I refuse to talk about. What you guys refuse to talk about. Scoble, come on. What is it that if I bring it up? Politics?
I think at the end of the email, he clearly doesn't want to talk about that.
How much Apple is slipping in this age of context?
You think so?
Yes.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
how far Google is advancing.
When
in
did
it.
you promise you were going to become an X fanboy? What was that? The end of February?
3 more weeks.
Okay. And then what are we going to see that you haven't?
Do you have an iWatch?
Tried
Robert?
desperately not to tell
I have
us
a Basis watch. And
what?
I just got some new watches downstairs too. Watches are only one.
Ludicrous.
If they shot
This is
laser
actually
beams,
full
I'd
watch.
like it.
This watch is my heart rate.
Talk about your fragmentation. problem.
You know, there's a lot of people who buy Nike Fuel Bands out there to help them exercise and stuff like that. The problem is, and I've been forcing myself to use Apple Maps, and it is
Show it
so
again,
bad.
Keith.
It is so bad, and until they fix their maps,
Thank
they're
you.
not going to be set up for the age of context, which is about telling me things around me. The reason I'm going to want an Apple Watch or a Basis Watch or something is either to study my body or study stuff around me and tell me something about the world around me. And Apple is way behind, not even in the same universe right now as Google. So I don't get it. I know Apple has 100 people working on wearable computers. They're way behind, and I think that's going to be a story a year from now. Good design is not going to be enough in this next age. You know, having a sexy design is not going to be enough.
I think Apple probably knows that.
Well,
I'm pretty
what
sure
are
Apple
they
knows
doing
that.
about it? Their maps suck. I mean, their maps can't find Twitter. I tried to get to Twitter on Apple's maps. Google Maps took me right
That's a
there.
Twitter API problem.
No, it's an Apple quality
They
problem.
refuse to
This is in San
release the
Francisco.
API for that.
This is in San Francisco, which is the highest density of geeks in the world. If it doesn't work in San Francisco, it certainly doesn't work in, backwaters of Nigeria.
I think it's a Robert problem because I use it all the time in San Francisco, and I even went to Twitter recently using it. So I think
Last night we were trying to get to Lucasfilm, and Tina, who refuses to upgrade to the latest OS, is still on Google Maps, and we were sent. Basically, I had to threaten to jump out of the car to avoid going over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, that's not true.
No, it's
Google
true.
Maps is
Lyons
pretty awesome.
Avenue, try it. Take a look at the Google Maps. It tells you, take a left on Lyons Avenue. Try taking a left. There's a huge concrete barrier at that point. And then
I've had
there's
it try and
one
set it
exit.
with a big hole in the ground on my bike. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one exit on the way before you get pushed across into Marin County.
The exit is right here and right here. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's two exits to come.
Is that the Google map?
This is Google.
I rest my case.
Where are you coming from?
Why don't you go to the real time view with the Google car camera perspective?
I don't know.
If it was taken last night, you'd see a big concrete wall there.
Was it temporary?
Do not go left, it says.
By the way, this is why I like Waze.
It's
'cause
the
Waze-
bus station they're building in the middle of town. That's what it is.
Whatever.
Well,
I don't know. I did a lot of driving the last 3 weeks, and I used Google Maps, and I got to where my destination was. I was in the middle of New Jersey. I was in New York. I was in Brooklyn. I was in San Francisco. I was in L.A., Palm Springs. I mean, I couldn't have more success.
Yeah, no, Google Maps is awesome, but Apple Maps is okay too, trust me. I've traveled a lot. I've been in Munich, the UK.
It's not, man.
It all comes from the
Tokyo.
same data source. You got at some point it's a rendering, right?
I keep forcing myself to use. Keith,
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
know where you're. I don't know where you're going, but I'm comparing notes with a lot of people who are trying to use Apple Maps because we're interested in this topic, and they really do suck. They sucked in London. They sucked in Las Vegas. They took me to wrong places and took me the wrong way. And they suck. They suck really bad in San Francisco. I don't know why you think it works, but obviously we're not looking at the same data center. The Google Maps. I use Google and Waze and Apple, all three, and they all. Google and Waze almost always take me the same place, and Apple takes me other places, and it's they also, if you look at the information
Think
density,
different. Think different, Robert.
Yeah, well, if you look at the information density of what the data points they have on their maps, Apple has far less density on their maps than Waze or Google Maps.
Absolutely true.
And that density is going to be what you get on your wearable computers or on your notifications or on your glasses as you walk around. I'm seeing new companies come out all the time that are showing me stuff about the world that I'm living in.
Yep.
Anyway,
all of which adds up to, the Apple is circling the drain meme is
They're
absolute
not
bullshit.
circling.
No,
Anybody with
not even
130
close.
billion anybody with $130 billion is not circling.
Forget the
drain.
money.
So,
I mean,
well,
Microsoft.
come on.
How much
They-
cash does Microsoft have?
Apple has enough cash to buy Microsoft. So who cares?
Is that true, John?
Almost.
How much cash? I mean, they make $40
No,
billion a year.
Microsoft's market cap's hundreds
up
of
there,
billions of dollars. They'd have to do stock and cash, and then it would wipe out the company. Because why would you buy a company that would just drag you down the drain?
All right. Microsoft is 235 billion market cap. Okay, yeah, you would have to put, you could buy half of Microsoft, which is still amazing.
It's
And,
like-
and you'd get a quarter of
it
its
still
value.
is totally
First
amazing.
prize is Microsoft. Second prize is 2 Microsofts.
When I worked at Microsoft, somebody in a company
If you had
meeting,
2 brains, you'd be twice as dumb.
well,
Don't forget you can use Microsoft's cash. You can
That was
buy
my
it
point.
With its own cash.
Okay, so forget the cash that Apple has. What else do they have?
they have great design. They have a great supply chain. They have a great distribution
Stop
chain.
pigeonholing them about design.
It's not the design; it's the
they
integration
have the
of
best-
everything with each other, and the simplicity and the ease of use. And so there's
And that's
there's a
design.
beauty, but there's also a functionality, and it's
That's
where
design.
functionality meets fun meets beauty that they excel
That's design.
across a whole bunch of different things,
That
from
is
the
design.
TV to the phone
There's
to the
nothing that you're
desktop.
saying that's counter to me saying they have great design. That's great design.
Yeah,
When I get in
true
a
in the
BMW
broader
and
sense
it
of design.
feels
Yeah.
good, it's because it has great design.
Yeah, product
Period.
design, not just industrial
Not
design.
just
Right.
not just product design. It has design throughout the user experience. The sound is designed. The visuals you see when you drive the car is designed, or when you
Right.
use your Apple product is designed. It's all
The
designed.
App Store is designed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
they
is
have-
just it's product design. The products are increasingly moving to services. They are increasingly becoming a powerful services company. And guess what? Who is their competition?
You know, Tim Cook was at the Goldman Sachs Investor Conference this week, and for the first time ever that I remember, he denied that Apple was a hardware company. A lot of people always say, Apple does great software, but it does it to sell hardware. And he said, no, we're not a hardware company. I don't know if that's a new point. I think that's a new point coming out of Apple.
think
'cause
it
I think
is.
they always were a hardware company with awesome software.
They said they were a product company, and then the point was to make a product that was a combination of hardware and software.
Yeah.
And I remember, not just Steve Jobs, but others talking in the 80s and 90s that great software is going to be done in hardware, and great hardware is going to need software. So, and certainly going into this age of context, great hardware. Like I visited Plantronics last week, right, which makes these audio headsets. All their innovation is focused on putting sensors in the product, and then doing software that augments the product, that changes the product. So are they a hardware company? Yes, they have the great hardware design, but they're also a software company. Apple, Apple, I don't think has ever not been a software and hardware company. You go back to the Apple II. That was a great piece of hardware because it had a great box and it had a great motherboard. It had everything simplistic and it had a low price, but it also had great software on it that got us all excited about this future age of computing. So Apple's always been a products company that mixes software and hardware together. I think that's why I'm arguing about them, because I see them not being positioned well for the software age that's coming, which is the product needs to personalize and predict what I want to do. And
Well,
if I have a
here's
bot-
where the problem arises with things like PhotoStream and iCloud and iMessage, which are awesome software, but only work on Apple devices, and that's the hardware company logic kicking in.
Yep.
That the services should support only your hardware.
By the
And
way,
that limits them a lot.
Yeah,
it feels
limits
to me
them
as if
to-
they took a
it
step
limits
up
them
and
to
truly became
lapping-
a services company.
It
Where the
limits
soft,
them, and
they would do a lot better.
Nonsense.
It limits
No,
them.
no,
And
it limits them in the cloud. Their cloud services are not up to scratch.
Nah,
you guys are missing
sorry.
out what the Apple really does. Apple watches how people judge product, and they optimize that thing. So, for instance, my friend next door, Andy Grignon, spent thousands of hours making the scroll work right on an iPhone. He worked on the first iPhone team, and they spent thousands of hours making that scrolling motion work at 60 frames a second and make it smooth. And they built that with software, and then they optimized the software in hardware. I just saw a new startup. In fact, let me pull it out. Just come out this past month that does video editing. It is called Give It. So there's a new app out that lets you do video editing on the iPhone. He cannot build this app on Android because Apple has built the video compression into hardware, and Android has not. Or if they have, they've only done it on a few phones, where Apple has put it on every phone since the iPhone 3GS. And so he has a big market that he can build for on iPhone. He can't do it on Android. And Apple does things in hardware that do advance the world. This is their secret sauce that they build for one device or 5 devices. They don't build for 5,000 like Microsoft Windows did or Android does. And therefore, they can optimize the product so that it feels really, really good. It starts up instantly on a MacBook Air. It starts up really nice on an iPhone. And that screen is really smooth, which still on my Android devices, it's janky. Even on the high end.
That's the good side. But the bad side is you use Dropbox instead of iCloud because iCloud's not a great product and it's too constraining.
By the way, Murray in the chat room said new Androids have GPUs. This is not a GPU thing. This is video compression, built-in H.264 into hardware. That is not on most Android devices.
Yes, it is. That's how you record video. It's not as accessible.
It's
not the camera can get at it, but not everything else can get at it.
Not according to this developer, and he's trying to build for Android, and he says, I am just not able to do what I can do on Apple. They have built the stuff into hard drive and put it on every phone.
It's the SDK.
So maybe there's
it's not the hardware. It's the SDK.
He said it
Apple
is hardware-based.
exposes this to developers, and I'm guessing, Kevin, you're the expert here, that Google does not consistently expose hardware acceleration.
Apple's got a very good audio-video pipeline API, which they've had since 10, and they took that with them to iOS. So a lot of the audio processing stuff you can do on iOS is quite hard to do on Android because just of the latency and the buffer size and stuff. And that may be similar for the video, so I haven't poked at the video as much. But yeah, there is an operating system difference there, but it's not all about hardware. It's also about how you structure the APIs.
Yeah. And this is why, by the way, Apple's ships iMovie on, and demonstrates this stuff on their keynotes, which looks really cool. And then developers can build cool stuff.
But Apple has a bunch of other stuff that doesn't work very well as well. So
I agree. Believe me, I am now seeing the market shift.
Yeah.
I am now seeing the market shift. There's a range of apps that are much harder to do on Apple product because, for instance, in a couple of weeks, you're going to see this amazing new keyboard come from SwiftKey. They cannot do this on Apple device. Yeah. Apple is closed and does not want developers to screw with the dialer, with the contacts, with the calendars, and Android is much more open there. They say, hey, developers, go to town, build a different keyboard if you want, plug it in, and we see 3 or 4 different keyboards on Android, and for geeks like me, that's really cool. Now, Apple will come back and say, well, yeah, but we have 800 stores, and we're hiring people that are paid, $10 an hour, and they need to know that everybody is the same so that they can be trained to, be a Genius Bar person. And there's a lot of validity to that. I worked at the support line at Microsoft, and it's really hard when you deal with normal people, and if they have different UIs, it gets even worse to deal with on support. So Apple has a support advantage, but because they want everything to be the same, they have an innovation disadvantage.
So, remember my meme that nobody picked up on?
Which one?
What are we not going to talk about in 5 years?
Oh no,
Attention
that
to
was the
XML?
second one. The first one. Who is Kevin Spacey in Silicon Valley?
Who is Kevin Spacey?
Who is the sinister behind the scenes schemer who takes over the world?
The combination behind the scenes, right there, hiding in plain sight. Person.
I think it's Peter Fenton or, David Z or John Doerr.
You think that they're effective? This guy's effective at getting things
I
done.
think they are effective.
He's controlling in the show. He controls the president.
Yeah.
He controls everybody.
I think anyone here who's been an entrepreneur and you deal with your investors, I'm doing investor
Abstractive.
meetings right now with new investors.
Uh-huh.
They are incredibly powerful for a period of time. And it depends upon them whether they continue to be powerful after that period of time. But when you need something, they're very powerful. And the best ones leverage their power in ways that doesn't feel bad, where you feel empowered by it, not thwarted by it.
Exactly. And, as nasty as Kevin Spacey is in the show, there's a certain thread of sort of pragmatic compassion in his character that's a little hard to trust. But there's something going on there. And I'm only on episode 3, so no spoilers, please. But instead of talking about that and personifying it around an individual, don't you think that there's an analogy between how Apple performs in the ecosystem and Google, that's related to what we see there? I mean, isn't it a two-party system that is really one party that's going on?
That means Microsoft are the Greens.
Microsoft's basically been on the cusp between both models for a long time. I mean, right now their open standards, open source support is better than either of the two other players. But that doesn't mean that they're being effective.
It's not.
Please, why did I even say that, Kevin? Except
To troll me, of course. I
yes.
know.
Okay.
No. The thing is that they are feeling obliged to support open source too. That's the interesting part. If you want your sort of secret person behind the scenes that's moving everyone along, it might be Ian Hickson, who writes the HTML5, edits the HTML5 spec. And certainly people see him as that. They see him as this shadowy figure who decides the future. But actually what he's doing is documenting what people do. And he's doing that successfully enough that it's changing their behavior. So if you look at the way the browsers work, he writes down how browsers behave, and then they have a public argument about how they should behave in future. And as soon as two of them agree, that goes in the spec. So that is if you want a sort of shadowy figure who's shaping the technology.
I'm not looking for shadowy. I'm not looking for shadowy. I'm just trying to point out that the dynamics of what works versus what should work in a perfect world kind of scenario, open versus closed, that these things are the tech companies that are actually driving this wave of innovation. I mean, the people with the most power in this are the guys that own the bandwidth. I mean,
Who are they? Who owns the bandwidth?
the carriers.
No.
Well, that's becoming increasingly true in a mobile world.
That's what I'm saying.
They thought they had the most power, and then they suddenly desperately were demanding to offload stuff onto Wi-Fi because they couldn't actually keep up with what we were doing with it.
How's that going for them?
Well, we're still, the challenge is that there's still a carry at the end of it either way. That's the problem.
Oh, they started charging more for my LTE has a cap on it now. AT&T didn't used to have a cap.
Yeah, I mean, the carriers are making money hand over fist, and they're going to make a lot more in the near future. So, as to who's in charge, It's difficult to say, but I think there's an analogy. And the fact that none of you seem to find that this resonates probably is because we don't want to start complaining about the people that we have traditionally thought were, very high-spirited people. Just like, it's easy to complain about government and about Washington and Congress and all that kind of stuff. At some point, the chickens are going to come home to roost in the technology business as people begin to make that same comparison. And it's a little dicey, so I understand the reluctance to excuse me, to think that way. And I also understand that we're running out of time here, so I want to just go around the table and start with Keith.
Great show this week. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and it made me think.
Okay, Kevin.
I'm still thinking about who the shadowy figure is now. I'm
Good.
I'm intrigued by this. That's a fun thought.
Well, who's the president?
On House of Cards, who cares?
No, start with it. No, in the House of Cards, there's only one president, right? There's the United States, but in Silicon Valley, there's Larry Page at Google, there's Tim Cook at Apple, there's John Bezos at Amazon, Steve Ballmer at Microsoft, although he's distant four in this new world. Who else knows something about us? Oh, Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, and after those five, it drops off. If you say the president is Tim Cook, then who is controlling Tim Cook? I would say right now it's the design guy.
Johnny Ive.
Johnny Ives.
Okay, is that your summary comment?
No, I don't know. That's my summary comment, sure.
Okay. John Taschek.
Haven't seen the show, but
Are you going to now?
oh yeah, you remember I saw the splash screen that said it's going to be playing like 2 weeks before. So I don't know why I got that, but I don't know. It's a good question. However, I think that the thing that we're not going to talk about until 2 years from now, or however you phrase that, would be that the people actually run these companies. And it's the people who actually run the country. It's all networked with if you did a mind map of the top 20 most powerful people, they're all in. The CEO of Coca-Cola is on the board of directors for mobile, the oil company, and the oil companies. They all kind of share this whole power network, which has ties into the New York financial community. That's not going to be disrupted anytime soon, but. Within 2 years, that might be the story of when the technology companies are at that level of power.
Well, the guy who has the most power is Andreessen. If you count it that
Andreessen's
way.
probably the smartest of all of them. Yeah.
He's on the boards of a lot of things, and he has a lot of fingers in a lot of things.
Okay, well, I'll accept that as a correct answer. Mark Andreessen is Kevin Spacey. This is Steve Gillmor, and this has been the Gillmor Gang. I don't mean that in a bad way, Mark.
Well, I'm seeing him on Wednesday, so I'll tell him that.
Tell him that, he's the smartest guy I know. But he knows that already, because he's the smartest guy I know.
Pulling a lot of strings.
What should I ask
I don't know
him,
about that.
by the way?
When's he going to come on the Gillmor Gang?
All right, that's an easy one.
Okay.
What else?
Is Apple as strong as some of us think?
All right.
Okay. All right, that's enough.
Or as weak as some of us think.
Well, that's for you to ask, because that's what you think. And, since about 40% of the show has been you talking about how great Apple is, I
They're
wonder.
very strong.
Yeah.
They're very strong, but I see cracks in the armor. And that's what I'll ask him about is how is anybody out there who can exploit the cracks as small as they are? Google is certainly one that I expect to. Facebook is certainly one that I expect to try to get, a little blade in that crack. is anybody else out there. I mean, he's on the board of HP and other things, so he has a good view of the players on the board, and it'll be interesting to talk to him about that.
So are you saying that Facebook does crack? I'm confused.
No, I mean, I'm using war metaphors from 400 years ago. If somebody had a lot of armor on and there was a little crack, you stuck your blade in that little crack.
I'm just being a pain in the ass. I want to thank Rackspace and particularly Rob Legess for maintaining the existence of this show. I want to thank NewTek and their TriCaster. I want to thank our producer and director, Tina Chase Gillmor. Where's the hand? There it is. And I want to thank John Taschek. Okay. I want to thank Robert Scoble. I want to thank Kevin Marks. And I want to thank Keith Teare.
And I want to thank Steve Gillmor.
Well, thank you. I want to thank the chat room, which has been lively and so robust that I haven't been able to mention many of the tangents that they're talking about here, which are as fascinating as what we've talked about. So we'll see you again next time. I want to thank everybody who showed up, and especially those who didn't. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.